You wake up in a hotel room and for a second, you can't remember what city you're in. The lamp, the headboard, the little coffee machine is the same as the last room in the last city and the one before that. And it isn't only hotels. The cafe downstairs could be in Berlin or Bangkok or Denver. The same exposed brick, the same hanging bulbs, an oat milk latte with a leaf drawn in the foam. The airport was identical to the last airport. The mall could have been any mall. Even the apps on your phone are starting to look like one another. Somewhere in the last decade, the world started to feel the same everywhere you went. The first reason began in a motel room. The second began inside your phone. And it isn't just you getting older or romanticizing the past. The sameness is real, and you can trace exactly where it came from. Start with the name for it. In 1992, a French anthropologist named Marc Augé, if I'm saying that correctly, he called it a non-place. A real place has history and memory. It's specific and it's tied to you. A non-place is built for passing through. The airport, the motorway, the chain hotel, the supermarket, interchangeable by design and identical wherever you find it. For most of history, non-places were rare. The odd blank spot between the real, particular places you lived your life in. Now, they're everywhere. And their spread comes from two forces, arriving about 50 years apart. The first is simple. Sameness sells. In 1951, a Memphis businessman named Kemmons Wilson took a family road trip and hated every motel along the way. Some were clean, some were filthy, all were different, and most charged extra for his kids. So the next year, he built his own, with one promise at the center of it. The room would be identical in every town. He called it Holiday Inn. You'd never again wonder what you were walking into, because it was the same thing you walked into last time. He sold predictability as comfort, and it worked so well, he copied it across the country. A sociologist named George Ritzer later called this McDonaldization. Systems built for efficiency and control until every outlet is a copy of the last. That was the quiet bargain. The coffee tastes the same in Tokyo as in Ohio, and that reliability is the whole product. But change took decades to blanket a country, one identical building at a time. The second force moves much faster. Around 2016, a writer named Chayka noticed something strange. The fashionable cafes he kept finding, city after city, were starting to look identical. Reclaimed wood, white tile, hanging bulbs, latte art. But they weren't a chain. They were independent shops in different countries that had never spoken to each other. A cafe in San Francisco, one in Copenhagen, one in Tokyo, all drifting toward this exact same look on their own. He called it AirSpace, and he worked out why. They were all built for the same few apps. A cafe gets photographed for Instagram, the look catches on, and that popularity pushes it up the rankings in Yelp, Google, and Airbnb. More customers follow. So the next cafe copies the look, or it never gets seen at all. Run that loop across the planet, and independent places everywhere sand themselves down into the same aesthetic. And it wasn't only cafes. In the 2010s, brand after brand redrew its logo into the same flat, minimal sans serif. Designers gave it a name, blanding. The old distinctive marks were smoothed out to read cleanly on a phone screen, and in the process, they stopped telling anyone apart. Chayka called the bigger pattern Filterworld. The same recommendation engines that flatten cafes also flatten music, film, design, and the feeds themselves. The app decides what gets seen. Everyone chases what the app rewards, and the whole world slides towards one safe, optimized average. That's what makes it feel sudden. Chains needed decades. The feed needs a weekend. The result is a quiet, specific disorientation. You can travel 1,000 miles and land somewhere that looks and sounds and smells like the place you just left. You lose the small shock of being somewhere genuinely else. And you start to feel faintly that you could be anywhere, which is uncomfortably close to being nowhere. But the sameness has never been total, because the one thing an algorithm can't reward is the specific. The diner that's been wrong in the same charming way for 40 years. The shop that only makes sense if you know the town around it. The mural someone painted for no reason except that they lived there. Places like that don't photograph well, don't trend, and don't scale, which is exactly what makes them real. Because a place, in the end, is somewhere that could only be where it is, shaped by the specific people who were there and no one else. Sameness is what you get when you let the feed choose. The specific is what's left when a person chooses instead. So the next time you can't tell what city you're in a hotel room, a cafe, an airport, a feed that looks like everyone else's, notice that the feeling bothers you. That flicker of unease is the part of you that still expects the world to be specific, that still wants somewhere that could only be here. The world went uniform because uniform was cheap, safe, and one tap away. But it was never a law of nature. It was a choice, millions of small ones, made mostly by machines. Go looking for the places that could only be where they are, and the sameness stops feeling inevitable.